Good evening, Garden City. Welcome to the regular City Council meeting for Monday, July 23rd, 2018. We'll start with the opening ceremonies, which include the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those that have given their lives. Please rise. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Ms. Bettis, call roll, please.
Mayor Walker? Mayor Pro Tem Jacobs?
Here.
Councilmember Lynch?
Here.
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Councilmember Earl?
Here.
Councilmember McCarge?
Here.
Councilmember Kerwin?
Here.
Show Mayor Walker absent and excused.
I will.
Okay. Number 4, approval of agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Go ahead, Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Monday, July 23rd, 2018, with the addition of B12 and taking off B1.
Support.
Discussion from council? Public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0, 6-0. Community events. City Manager Doherty.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm proud to unveil tonight the Garden City's latest project when it comes to cleaning up the community, the Purple Bag Challenge. Instead of asking people to go out and clean up and use their own garbage bags and resources, we decided to put together a package itself, as everybody sees in their chairs. Or next to you is the Purple Bag Challenge, and actually on the monitor itself are the signs that are being set up right now in the City Hall and also over in Maplewood Community Center. We have 2 more coming that'll be in the police station, and they'll be actually located over at the rink. It really gives everybody a chance now, instead of us asking go clean up. It has, as the camera comes back to me, it has a couple of pieces to it. We've got a sleeve around. Community hasn't done this before, so this will be a little unique. Inside the purple bag will be a set of gloves. So the gloves are for picking up the trash, the bag itself for filling up. The card, that sleeve that wraps around it, has a postcard that can be mailed back to us that tells us where they did the cleanup, gives us a little information itself. And then also on the card, it explains a little bit about the process of taking a picture of yourself, doing the cleanup, or your family, possibly coworkers, your organization that you belong to let us know. Send it to us on your Facebook, send it to our webpage, and we'll give them a little promotion and fun. So rather, again, than just saying, please clean up, it's something that we want to get all the supplies to the people themselves. Similar to the 4x4 that I'll be giving an update later to, it's just another step that we want to get people out to help out clean up the community for the future. So that's the Purple Bag Challenge. We'll have it out all throughout the summer and fall, and then bring it back possibly next year as 2.0, another version of it. So great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Also, we have Community Seniors Center Director Monica Fulton.
Hi, thank you. I'm just here tonight to announce officially, in case you haven't heard, that the fitness court has met the goal. In fact, we surpassed it. We raised $50,343 on the Patronicity site, which means that we will receive $50,000 in matching funds. So, yay!
Good.
We're really excited. I'm really excited. I just want to thank all the residents and former residents and businesses and city staff that supported this project, and we definitely came together as a community to do it. So super excited, and I'll be giving you updates on actually when the fitness court is going to be going in, and the target is this fall. So more updates to follow.
Awesome, great job. Okay, I don't think we have anything else. Comments from state and county officials. I believe we have someone from State Rep Jewel Jones' office.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city majority, and citizens of Garden City. We don't have a lot to offer in the sense that the House is in recess for the summer, won't return until September. However, there are several things that I'd like to comment on because I think they'll be important for the fall session. And I don't want to make a political announcement, but, you know, the Democrats are really pushing to get the roads fixed, lower our auto insurance cost, improve and lower the cost of prescription drugs, particularly since pharmaceutical companies are really avoid a lot of the penalties when they when people get victimized by drugs because of some legislation that was passed some years ago. We're trying to make a serious effort to try to reverse that legislation. And there's another bill I think is important from a community development standpoint, and especially as it relates to young people and people who are looking for training and skill jobs or want to go to or who'd like to attend college. We're offering a tuition-free community college opportunity to all citizens from the state of Michigan. We're going to really push hard on that because we think that's an investment, you know, to get people educated, particularly in the skills and the technical areas where there are a lot of shortages in job opportunities. Sorry, I'm having problems with the allergy. On a real good note, I'd like to point out that Governor Snyder has cited August as Breastfeeding Month. Breastfeeding Awareness Month. People don't realize how important it is to breastfeed children because they're healthier. It helps to form a bond between the mother and the child, and they avoid a lot of early childhood illnesses because of the nutrition they receive as a result of the breastfeeding. And finally, we're offering a Citizens Resource Forum August 2nd at Christian Faith Ministries Church over on Marquette. Essentially, we'll have experts to come out and talk about opportunities for seniors and avoiding a lot of the pitfalls they may suffer with respect to looking for long-term care options or taking advantage of Medicaid, Medicare. Also, we're going to talk about homelessness. I know there are a lot of programs in the city. We're trying to get folks to leverage those. We were encouraged to do this by a number of people, and so we're going to have folks, some locals, some from outside the community come in and talk about homelessness, veterans, especially veterans homelessness. There's a real big project to provide housing for homeless veterans, and we're trying to get behind that. Are there any questions, comments?
I have one. You talked about the tuition. Do you know the bill number for that?
I can get it to you,
Okay.
Councilman Earl.
All right.
Yeah, that's a big, the program is called Higher Ed Opportunity. I'll give it to you, as a matter of fact, before we leave. I've got it on a flyer, so
Okay.
I'll make sure you get that. that's something we hope the community can really get behind because it's a very important effort. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else from county or state. No petitions or communications. We have 2 public hearings. These are discussion only, basically, some house cleaning issues. We're not voting on anything. So if you have anything, we'll have public hearing A, 2017 Craig Avenue project. We'll open that up. Anybody have any questions, comments? One more time, anybody with comments? Okay, we'll close that one. And the 2018 Hubbard Avenue project. Anybody have anything? Going? One more? Anybody? Okay, we'll close that one. Item 9, consent agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda items 9A 1 through 3.
Support.
And if I may read number 3.
Go ahead.
It's a reappointment to the Downtown Development Authority for John Prash with a term expiring 4/30/2022.
Okay, any questions, comments? Table, general public? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Passes 6-0. Okay, action items B. B2, since we took out item 1, zoning text amendment for multiple family. Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. The proposed text amendments for the R3 zoning district, there are 2 amendments to this. The first is for principal permitted uses to add detached single-family homes. Currently, detached single-family homes are a special land use in the R3 district, and we recommend making that a permitted use, and that's a recommendation that comes also from the Planning Commission. The other change recommended by the Planning Commission is to allow a height in the R3 district of up to 3 stories. There are 2 height standards in the R3 district. The first is 35 feet in height. That height is not proposed to change. And then the other is 2.5 stories. That is proposed to change to 3 stories. The reason being, if there's any new multifamily housing, especially in the R3 district, instead of going a half story below ground and still meeting that height requirement, they'll be able to make more at-grade units and making them more handicap accessible. So that will modernize the zoning ordinance a little bit while still not having the buildings any higher than the 35-foot cap. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Council, any questions?
Go
ahead.
Tim, do we have many 3-story buildings in the city? I was trying to think if we even had anything that was that high.
I don't believe we do. In every district, I think the max is 2.5 stories or 35 feet. So there may be some 35-foot high buildings, but nothing really 3 stories. There wouldn't really be much of demand other than maybe a multifamily building or maybe a multi-unit office building or something like that. But the demand, based on conversations of property owners in the R3 district, is coming from people that might want to do multifamily but have a hard time developing something if they can't get that 3rd story.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, motion on the table.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Earl.
I move to adopt an ordinance to amend sections 154.241 subsection B, subsection 1, and 154.242 subsection B, and Appendix A, R3, multiple family residential district, City of Garden City zoning ordinance.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Lynch. Comment from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, B3, zoning text amendment. Request to amend zoning ordinance regulations for .602, sign definitions, and 154.611, sign removal by city action.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Squires.
I move to introduce an ordinance to amending sections 154.602, sign definitions, and 154.611, sign removal by city action, and a call for a public hearing for Monday, August 20th, 2018 at 7 p.m. Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Mr. Sloan, would you like to explain this one?
Yes. Currently, the zoning ordinance classifies an abandoned sign as a sign that where a business has left and the sign remains on the building, and it classifies the abandoned sign as something that's been there where a business has been discontinued for 180 days. That's an excessively long period of time, and so we recommend reducing that down to 30 days, and the Planning Commission has recommended approval of that part of the amendment. The other part of the proposed amendment is in section 154.611 for the sign removal by city action. Currently, if the city is going to force the removal of a sign, that process goes through the Zoning Board of Appeals before it goes to ordinance enforcement. That is an irregular way of doing it. The Zoning Board of Appeals is there just to hear appeals on any decision under the zoning ordinance. To have the Zoning Board of Appeals be an enforcement agency, that's not really a proper role for them. So what we recommend doing is having the ordinance officer or the building officer be the enforcement official for the removal of signs, and then keep the Zoning Board of Appeals role as just an appeals body in the ordinance so that it flows a lot better and it reads like most zoning ordinances do. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions from the council.
Any questions from the table? Okay. From the general public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, B4, special land use in M1 District, 32330 Ford Road. Motion on...
Do I have him to talk about it, please?
Sure.
John?
Patrick, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Mr.
sure,
Sloan.
thank you. I'll be brief on the introduction, and then I'll be able to answer any questions. The special land use before you this evening is for a property located at 32330 Ford Road. Although it has a Ford Road address, it's on the east side of Hubbard Avenue, so it's not accessible by Ford Road. And the property is in the M1 district. That's the industrial district. And the proposal is to establish a special land use of a Class C medical marijuana grow operation, a processing facility, and a provisioning center at the facility. The Planning Commission reviewed the site plan and the special land use. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the special land use and approved the site plan contingent on special land use approval. The report to the Planning Commission from McKenna, as well as the plans and correspondence from the applicants, are in the packet. The reason this is before council is that whenever there's a special land use recommended by the Planning Commission, it goes to the City Council. And the City Council has two options. The first option is if the council wants to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation with nothing added, then the City Council can decline to take any action on the Planning Commission's recommendation. And at that point, the Planning Commission action on the special land use becomes final. The second option of the City Council is that if the City Council wants to deliberate or possibly change the special land use recommendation of the Planning Commission, the City Council must hold a public hearing before doing so. So if there's anything that may change or alter the Planning Commission's recommendation, the City Council will first have to schedule that public hearing and to hold it. Our recommendation is that for option number 2, if the City Council does hold a public hearing, we recommend that be Monday, August 20th at 7 p.m. so that we can have the proper notices. And then option number 1 would be to elect to take no action on taking the special land use application under consideration, and therefore the Planning Commission recommendation and approval would be final. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions about the process or the application.
I have a question.
Councilman Kerwin.
Provisioning means selling, correct?
Correct.
So we have 2 other marijuana industry businesses in this city, correct?
Correct.
But they only grow and then they ship out of our city.
As far as I know, they are growing only. I don't know what kind of processing that they're doing, but they have an approval under our previous ordinance several years ago when we allowed caregivers to grow in the industrial district. So under the ordinance, as far as we know, they're only growing.
Okay. And if we open this up to provisioning, does that allow the other 2 businesses to do the same?
They can make an application. To be a provisioning center, you have to be a grower and a processor. So if they wanted to be a provisioning center, they would have to also apply for processing. The intent there is that you could have all of the product done under one property or one roof where you grow it, process it, and sell it. There's not necessarily that requirement, but to be a provisioning center, you have to be both a processor and a grower, at least in Garden City. That's a local ordinance. The state really doesn't have any requirement in terms of the co-location, so that's a local requirement. And what we were intending there when the ordinance was adopted was to encourage if we're going to have provisioning centers, encourage them in areas where the product will be grown and processed, which will be an industrial process in the industrial zone, and to keep that use out of the commercial zones.
Okay. So this would give them a storefront, like an actual shop? where people can come
This
in?
application, yes.
But that would have to be right there where they're doing the growing and processing,
Correct, at the same facility,
at the same facility?
yes.
So not in our commercial zone, only in the industrial area?
Correct. In that industrial area and in the same facility. In this application, they have a floor plan of the building, and on the south side of the building, they have a floor plan where there's an area dedicated to the provisioning center. And then farther, as you go north, there's the processing, and then at the very north side of the building is where they'll grow most of the floor area.
Our industrial area isn't a huge area in Garden City, correct? I mean, it's not compared to some of the communities surrounding us. So we're not talking about a huge number of these facilities there.
But there could be, now that we've taken away, one of our meetings, we've taken away the so many feet having these businesses next to each other. And by doing that, it basically opened it up, and this could become the marijuana district if as long as the building's open, correct?
There are some restrictions. It can't be any less than 300 feet from a residential district. It can't be less than 300 feet from the right-of-way of Ford Road. And it can't be less than 500 feet from a school or a daycare facility or some other facility like that. So we have a fairly good-sized industrial district, and what we see is that on the interior of that district, it's almost like an oval shape where the use, someone can apply for the use. It doesn't necessarily mean that they'll get it because of special land use. We take the neighbors into consideration and the area into consideration, but they can make that application. So there could be a number of properties that make the application. We don't have a specific number, but there are quite a few on the interior.
Councilmember Squires.
On this particular address, they have the Ford Road address. Will there be signs right on Ford Road advertising it?
On their site plan application and on their site plan, they've noted that they won't have any signage on the south side of the building except for the address and perhaps some pedestrian signage indicating the door. They are entitled to have some wall signage. The maximum wall sign in, I think the district is 150 square feet along the frontage portion of the road. So along Hubbard, they could have, I think, up to 150 square feet. On the Ford Road side, they put on their application that they won't have any signage there.
I just have another question. So if we said, okay, we can do the grow processing and provisioning center, that doesn't necessarily, we're not limiting how many of these we can do, but we could limit if.
Not right
if
now.
But doesn't everything have to come through the planning commission, or if they have to get, I mean,
For special land use.
special use? I guess I don't understand that.
Patrick, maybe explain the state law of we're able to limit as opposed to other industries.
Sure. Communities to allow for the types of medical marijuana facilities under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act. There are 5 types of facilities the act allows for. There are growers, there are processors, and there are provisioning centers. There are also testing centers and secure transporters. Where most of the demand comes from is the growers and the provisioning centers. To allow any of the 5 uses or all of the 5 uses, a community must opt in. So it must adopt some kind of ordinance or action from the elected body allowing for those uses to be established in their community. And then we're required to send that to the state so that the state can keep the ordinance on file. The Facilities Licensing Act allows a community to limit the number of facilities in the community. And so the Licensing and Regulatory Affairs Department, they keep a spreadsheet of which communities opt in. And some communities, when they opt in, they put a specific number on them. So they might have, 5 growers or 1 processor or something like that, where in zoning, typically when we want to limit something, we have setback distances, and then by default, there is a limit. In the Facilities Licensing Act, it specifically says the community can limit the number of facilities. So we can pick a number and then limit it. We don't have that currently in the zoning ordinance, but that is something that City Council can consider if there's a future amendment to it, to put a number limit on different types of facilities there.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to talk about that.
Up for discussion later on in the meeting tonight.
Yep.
Councilmember Carriage.
Just another question on procedure, so we're going to have a public hearing on what, just what the Planning Commission has said, which does not limit. It only says we can do these things, correct? So there's nothing that says sets any limits. Am I reading that right?
Explain if they say yes or no, or what happens next, just to go over that again.
Yeah, so if the council chooses option 1, it would be a motion to not take action on the application and therefore make the Planning Commission's action final on the special land use permit. Option number 2 would be to take the application under consideration and call for a public hearing on August 20th. Now, if the City Council were to call for a public hearing on August 20th, it doesn't mean that the Planning Commission can't accept the Planning Commission's recommendation anyway. It just means that the council wants to deliberate further and hold a public hearing.
So this item is all or nothing. So if you choose tonight to say you don't want selling, provisioning, then it's held off for another month till the public hearing. If you say everything's good, then it passes tonight.
Okay, so what we're doing is, if we accept the Planning Commission, again, I apologize, I just didn't understand quite. This is just one application for the 3 different facilities over at the, at the industrial area.
That's correct.
We're not discussing, this is tonight, it's how many we're supposed to have or how much we limited. That's a separate.
That's a discussion later on. That's a
That'll be number
discussion we're going to have
11.
later
So
on.
this one is just about this candidate
Okay,
right now.
that's probably what was confusing me because I was reading ahead. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Councilwoman McCurge.
Let me find it. I make a motion to not take the application under consideration and thereby making the Planning Commission's decision final.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. And that was option 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any more comments from the table? From the general public? Mr. Bacco.
I can do this now.
Yes.
marijuana.
That's what we're voting on right now.
Why do that? Whose idea was it?
I believe it was whoever applied for it. We're just agreeing or not agreeing with whoever applied for it.
The marijuana that bad. It's going to go if it's passing.
This is for medical marijuana. This isn't, the vote in November is for the recreational. Right now, it's just medical. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
State your name, please.
Yes, I'm Susan Clark,
Okay.
and I'm part of
Laura
My
Ross.
Canon with Laura Ross. And we are going to be a grow, provision, and processing center. And we already have our application into the state. We happen to be right next door to the building that you're talking about tonight. So needless to say, we have some concerns because we've been working on this project for about 8 months now.
And we were told there was only going to be 2 in the city. Had we known it would change, we would have taken our business elsewhere, because it's kind of like you're putting a McDonald's right next to McDonald's, right next to McDonald's. Someone's going to fail. It'd be different if it's a Taco Bell or a Wendy's and a Popeyes, but we're all doing the same thing. We've been there 8 years, low-key, doing what we're supposed to do. We've met with many people, and we were told all along. I brought her, she's willing to invest in our company, wanted to stay in Garden City, then things all of a sudden change. Now it's opened up to however many, which is ridiculous, by the way. Competition is fine, which we don't care about that. But to have 5 in a very small, right now, I don't know if you're aware of, there's 5 that are looking at buildings. There's 2 other buildings that people are occupying and wanting to put their applications in, also to be in there. 2 right next to each other. Then the big building, and then the 2 that have already been there for 8 years. So we were hoping that Garden City would, appreciate that we've been there and been quiet, doing what we're, out there to do. And I don't know, I just feel like we were blindsided, we were lied to, and I don't know.
I think there's some other considerations too, because when you start opening up to 5 dispensaries, they're called provisioning centers now, but basically they're dispensaries. You're going to be dealing with a lot of traffic and people coming in from Inkster and Dearborn Heights and Dearborn and Detroit, probably because your city will be taking over some of the business that goes on 8 Mile now, which is where a lot of Detroit's dispensaries are. And from a business standpoint, it's tough on us. Those licenses are very expensive. And if you start putting too many people in there, then you're hurting the people that are trying to come in and do a nice job for Garden City. And the provisioning center we're talking about in this building right here is a huge center. We're not talking about a small building. We're talking about a good-sized building that is going to be a very large provisioning center. So
Okay.
we'd just like some consideration on what we've gone through so far. And, we have met with a few of you talking about it, so you sort of know our plans. And we'd just
Okay.
like some help in getting the business off the ground before everybody else comes into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question? Are you one of the 2 that are already in Garden
Yes.
City?
Yes,
That's what I
we
thought
are.
you said,
Yeah, we're
but
the
then I
very
wasn't
first one.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're right off. Okay.
yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. So the motion that just passed was,
We haven't voted
so the
on
motion
it.
that was put up was to
To
accept the
allow
recommendation?
that one
Yes.
facility to do the provisioning,
Grow provision.
grow, provision, and
process.
process.
Okay, because I'm a little concerned with the provisioning part of it and the traffic and,
Okay.
okay.
Any other, Mr. Mulder?
Are you voting to accept the planning commission's recommendation?
Yes. That's what it
Okay.
would be.
To allow it?
Correct.
I think you need to have a public hearing, and I think all of you need to think this over a little bit. The man come up there and explained it to you, and he didn't even know all of it. So if he don't know it, you don't know it. he's the guy that's supposed to be in charge of it and did all the paperwork. And when you asked him about one of the particular things, he wasn't sure. So I think you better sit back and think it over a little bit and have the public hearing and give you plenty enough time to figure it out. Because like I said, he made a statement that he didn't know one thing that you asked. So you better start thinking a little bit better, I think.
Well, I will say this, we have had, Patrick, how many public hearings on this so far? I can think of 2 or 3 already, sir.
For the provisioning as well?
Yes.
Distribution and stuff. He
Yes.
didn't know that.
Okay. Well, we have had public hearings.
You must not have learned all of it, because if he don't know it, he couldn't have possibly told you about it. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Hunt.
Kevin Hunt, Bridge Street, Garden City. I am on the Planning Commission. The public hearings have been scheduled. We've had people in. If anyone sat through those meetings and you have concerns over the provisionary center in there, if you saw what we saw as far as the security plans, the monitoring, the people that are involved with these security plans, that's going to be the safest part of Garden City ever. And that's no knock against our officers and our police department, but with what they are putting up, the kind of money they are putting up, the kind of security they are putting up, the money that they have to put up just to be licensed and everything they go through to get licensed. You've got stand-up citizens running this, and they're out to protect their interest and the amount of money that they've had to invest in already. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Dale Ross. My wife's one of the owners of the First Row Shop. Those security requirements and that they're going through, everybody's going to do that. Anybody that gets approved has to come up with a state approved. They're going to come in and check so are you, what security measures you put in force. So that every one of them would be that way. It has to be, or it wouldn't pass. Also, it seems that you guys aren't exactly aware of one of the ordinance was passed that you have to have all 3 in one building. So you have to have a grow, you have to have a provisioning, you have to have the processing, you have to go for all 3 licenses. That's what we did. Well, that's what they've done, so. That being said.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Take a hand count.
Nay.
Can we do a roll call vote?
Yeah,
Want to do a hand count? Okay.
do a hand.
All in favor?
Put your hand up.
All in favor of this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 2, 4, 2. Okay. B5, Special Assessment 2018 Sidewalk Program.
Calling
Yes.
for a public hearing.
Calling for a public hearing.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to adopt the following resolution to call for a public hearing to solicit public comments on the necessity of the 2018 sidewalk program on Monday, August 6, 2018 at 7:00 p.m.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Comments from table.
It's just setting the date, just setting the public hearing, no real comments.
Yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 6-0. Board of Construction Phase Engineering Services for 2018 road paving projects.
Good evening, Council. This is to award the contract to Hennessy Engineers to do the work we need to pave Hubbard from Maplewood to Warren, Cambridge from Lathers to Helen, and James Avenue from Lathers to Gilman.
Okay. Motion?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Earl.
I move to authorize Hennessy Engineers Incorporated to perform construction phase services in accordance with the correspondence dated July 5th, 2018, in an amount not to exceed $79,950.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any discussion? General public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0 passes. Okay, B7. Councilmember Squires.
I move to award a contract to CI Contracting of Brighton, Michigan, in the amount not to exceed $1,042,134.50 in accordance with the correspondence dated July 5th, 2018 from Hennessy Engineers.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any discussion from table? General public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0 passes. B8, contract amendment for evidence-based disease prevention Tai Chi grant. Ms. Fulton.
Hi, this is a contract amendment with the Senior Alliance for a grant that the senior centers had since October of 2017. Senior Alliance had some unused funds from other grants that they awarded, and they're kind of redistributing them. And since we're doing gangbuster business over there, we are going to be getting an additional $1,419 for the Tai Chi program. If you remember, the demand was so great, we added an advanced class, so this will be very helpful for that.
Okay, very good.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve the contract amendment for the Evidence-Based Disease Prevention Tai Chi grant and authorize the Community Resources Director to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Discussion from table. General public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. B10, supplemental appropriation for evidence-based disease prevention arthritis exercise.
This is a grant as well from the Senior Alliance for the Arthritis Exercise Program. And again, they had unused grant funds and they're redistributing it. And this will amend our contract to increase the grant funds received by $2,874 to support the Arthritis Exercise Program. Again, at Garden City, the Arthritis Exercise Program is very highly attended. So that's one of the reasons why they're giving us additional funds.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Squires.
I move to approve the contract amendment for the Senior Alliance Evidence-Based Disease Prevention, Arthritis, Exercise Grant, and authorize the Community Resources Director to execute all necessary documents.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any discussion from the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 6-0. Okay, B11, discussion of distances.
Nope. 10.
Supplemental appropriation for evidence-based disease prevention.
Yes.
And this is just the supplemental appropriation request to appropriate those dollar funds into the revenue account for the grant as well as expense accounts in the senior center budget for operating supplies to support those two programs, the Tai Chi and the arthritis exercise, as well as the additional costs for the additional classes for the instructors for those programs.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve the supplemental appropriation to the general fund, increasing revenues and expenditures in the amount of $4,293 for the Senior Alliance Evidence-Based Disease Prevention Grants.
Support.
Support from Councilmember McCarge. Any discussion from the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay. B11, discussion of distances in the industrial area.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This item goes in conjunction with what was discussed a little bit earlier and some questions about the number of medical marijuana facilities in the industrial area. Back in the fall, the council removed the limit of 1,000 foot, which limited the number to only 2, which was mentioned earlier. At this point, there's an unlimited number. So we just added a third vendor tonight to be in the industrial area. So there's some discussion of should it be limited, unlimited, or not at this point. If the council chooses, as we mentioned earlier, they can by state law. We can't say no more discount stores or no more nail salons, but we can, when it comes to medical marijuana facilities, limit and put a number. If the council decided tonight to say 3, then we'd be done bringing any more applicants to the Planning Commission or the council. If it's 4, then there's room for one more or a 5th one. Instead of going with the footage, the 1,000-foot, just useless information for everybody, the 1,000 did limit it only to 2. But if we came up with a number and said 250 foot, well, if there's 2 businesses available, one is less than 250, that can't be rented out. So the discussion with staff was better to have a number if we're going to go more than 3. That way, every business in our industrial area has the ability to be rented out as opposed to a footage. So we'd rather go with the number itself. If the council chooses 3, tonight would be the last vendor at this point. If they go to 4 or 5, we can continue with a few more, or it could be unlimited tonight. The point is, whatever the council decides tonight is not a final number. It would have to go to a public hearing to the Planning Commission and eventually work its way back to the council. So at this point, 3 have been approved. So it was just open discussion of should there be a limit or should it be unlimited? And that's a question for the council.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Squires.
I feel that it should stop at 3. I feel very strongly about that. We don't, there are other businesses that could open in the industrial area. And I realize that it's medical marijuana and not, people off the street just coming in to buy, hopefully. But I think 3 is the maximum. I don't feel that we need any more than that. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Lynch.
I know when we first started talking about this, a year ago probably now, we had taken into consideration that we already had 2 businesses that would probably go for the licensing, because when they changed the licensing, we knew that they were already established and they'd probably go for the advanced licensing, I guess I'll call it. And I missed the boat on that one. We had the 1,000-foot. And I missed the boat. That's my fault. But I'm in total agreement with Councilmember Squires that I think we need to limit it to 3. I think 3, healthy competition, but at the same time, it's not going to overpower our industrial area. We're providing a service with medical marijuana, but realizing that depending on the vote in November, that could blow everything out of the water and the rules might change. But for now, the whole reason we took this up is we were servicing people that need medical marijuana. I know there's other communities around us that have larger numbers, so it's going to be out there. It's going to be in Inkster and Detroit and other communities. They're not stopping it. But I think we should limit at 3, and that's my feelings.
Councilmember McCarge.
I guess I'm confused, so I apologize for my questions. So tonight, was it one business that wants to have the grow, the processing?
Yes.
Right. So I don't know if that was a business that was already growing?
No, that's a new business.
And so right now, we have 2 grow.
We have 2 grow facilities and one, and this new applicant that's going to open the 3.
Okay.
And out of the other 2, it sounds like the other ones have applied for the licensing for the other. They just haven't received it yet.
And they have, right. And my concern is we've ought to hit a viable, company that's doing the grow, and to turn them away, I'm just a little bit concerned, but I also, and I'm seeing that the grow, the processing, and the, as really almost one entity rather than 3 separate, but maybe I'm seeing it wrong. I'm not, but I would not want to hurt a business that's been there and has been responsible by not allowing them, if they get, the state gives them the to do that. I just, I don't know why I assumed that this was one of the businesses that was already there. So I don't know what the state is doing as far as the timeliness. The state's had some issues with this whole process. It has not gone very smoothly, and I know I don't have to tell you that. But I would like to at least consider being able to have the two of three each, if that makes sense,
Well, I think, Councilwoman, what we're talking about is, do we allow any more vendors at this point? So the two are there permanent. They're asking maybe for future selling in the future. The third one we just added tonight, so do we want a fourth and fifth to come in?
Okay, that was my concern.
Yes.
Okay, so they've already, even though they haven't got the license from the state, they're here, and they can go to...
If they may have an agenda item in the future, 6 months or a year from now, that may ask for your permission then to process and sell, but not yet because they haven't
But we
gone through
wouldn't
yet.
necessarily be saying they couldn't come.
No, not tonight. We're just saying no future vendors. We spend up to 20, 30% of our time in zoning, meeting with people about medical marijuana clinics. So.
Okay, and that's why I had to ask questions, because I wasn't getting it. So I'm comfortable with just no more than what we have, as long as the ones that are there are going to have a chance to, okay.
That would
Sorry
be
for
3.
that.
Nothing? Councilman Cronin?
I just agree. I think there should be a limit on, at least to see how it goes. You can always give more, but you can't really take back. So I'd like to
The limit,
have a limit.
I agree.
Okay.
So Mayor Pro Tem and Council, with a vote tonight, then we will put that towards the Planning Commission in the next month as a public hearing, and then it'll come back to you from their consideration for another discussion. So it
But
could
it doesn't,
change.
again, it doesn't,
Does not affect the other two at this
it
point.
doesn't
No.
affect the other two. That's
No.
the one.
Apparently
that's the
helps
only
some
thing
from
I
what you
wanna
said
make
earlier.
That is what I want to make sure.
Yes.
Right. But no, we don't need any more. I agree with that. Totally confused.
Okay.
Not now.
So we want to vote to move that to the Planning Commission? All in favor of the 3?
Well, you need a person, and so moved.
Okay.
Support.
So that'd be Councilwoman Lynch, support from anybody?
Support.
Councilmember Squires? We've had discussion, general public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. B12, Mr. Doherty.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The topic is just a question for the future. Councilman Earl asked for us to put together a charter commission in reference to looking at the overall charter, which needs a full revision. At this point, there's more steps to it to get to that point. It may not be able to be on the campaign or election cycle until almost next summer by the time we go through the process, which we can discuss at another time. But we can make amendments, miscellaneous amendments, rather than a full revision. One of the questions was, in general, what happens if the mayor pro tem position steps up to take over the mayor's seat temporarily? Currently, our charter sets it up that they can't step back to their seat after that time. Using a crazy scenario, say our mayor moves off to another office, Mayor Pro Tem moves up for 1 year to fill in, but they may have 2 more years left on their position as Mayor Pro Tem. Currently, our charter says, sorry, they're out at the next election after 1 year, yet they had 2 more years left. So this is just, right now, it's not an official vote tonight, it's just to get a sense or discussion from of everybody on the board, if you are in favor of such a thing. So it's basically to adjust the charter to say, if a Mayor Pro Tem or any council person steps up to a mayor's seat, they can step back to their seat to continue their last 2 years or so. So it's just one of those things in the charter. Over the years, we haven't seen that incident happening, so it was never documented, and we're seeing some potential flaws.
Well, the reason this happened is we changed our term for mayor from 2 years to 4 years. And in the process of doing that, no one foresaw the fact that somebody might decide to run for another office after that first year. And because we already had it set based on several years ago that we would have the next vote getter move up, it kind of boxed us in on this one. I am all in favor of putting this as a charter amendment on the November ballot. because it's only fair that the mayor pro tem stepping forward should be able to do that. I also think that we should expand that idea just a little bit more in case the mayor pro tem, let's say, he didn't want to step up, that it should go by order of vote, that the next person then would be given the option to step up, because we don't want to box ourselves in with that either and not have anybody take over the role of mayor. So I think that should be on the
Yes.
ballot.
And to be clear, a council person could step up and run for the mayor's seat without losing their seat. But by being forced to take over the seat as the mayor pro tem, they lose their seat
Yes.
officially because they gave up their last seat. So, yes, that would be a nice piece to add. It'll be coming back to you right now as kind of a discussion point, but just to move forward, any charter amendments have to go through the Attorney General's office, through the Governor's office, and then back down to the voters. Due that we have a timeline, due to the timeline in August, we just want to kind of get the ball rolling real quick to see if we can move forward. And generally, most people find it somewhat, again, as a housekeeping item that we just haven't taken care of over the years. Doesn't affect very much.
Any?
One
Councilmember
more,
Lynch.
I'd also like to see in the November ballot, one more small housekeeping item, and that has to do with the way council is paid. And I don't know how it ended up this way, and we didn't catch it, but a few years ago. The way it's worded is the mayor gets paid basically, and I don't know what it is,
4,000.
4,000 something, and it's divided between the 12 months, and he gets the equal pay each month. But the way it's worded for council is we get $28.80 up to $28.80. It's $60 per meeting. Well, $28.80 isn't anything, and it should be written in the same way that the mayor's is, that you take the $2,880, divide it by 12 months, and you get a set amount every month. Instead of 1 month, we have more meetings, so it's higher. 1 month, we only have 2 meetings, and it's lower. It should just be the same $28.80 divided by 12. I'd like to see that also on the ballot. Not changing the amount of money, just changing the process of just dividing it up between 12 months.
Each of those items would have to be taken separately because they'd be each a different amendment. So we're going to forward this to the AG through our attorney's office up to the governor's office. So we might want to just make sure everybody's in agreement with those 3 items. Or, I mean, by now, at this point, it's not an official vote.
No.
It's just a discussion. So by consensus, if there's an agreement to those 3.
Councilmember Earl?
I just have, I think that it sounds good. I know we had an issue several years ago where one of the council people was not able to attend a meeting. He was working outside the state, taking care of his family first, but he didn't attend, 7 months of meetings? I don't know how they would have.
There's a provision in here that says you're allowed 4 meetings to miss. So that would kick in at that point. You wouldn't get paid for meetings past 4 meetings.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I would want to make sure that
Right.
is understood.
Let me just read this out loud. For the mayor, it said, "The mayor shall receive compensation in the amount of $4,000 per fiscal year. Compensation shall be paid monthly." End of story. That's the way councils, I believe, should be written. This one says, "Each member of the council shall receive as compensation an amount equal to $60 per regular meeting attended, not to exceed $2,880 in any one fiscal year. Council members shall be compensated for up to 4 absences per year. Compensation shall be paid monthly." It should just be very simple.
There's some additional work in there because it is per meeting. So if we have a special meeting during a month, there is payroll issues that spend a little more time doing that, figuring out if there were meetings or weren't meetings. So there is a little extra that goes with it that's somewhat nonsensical. But that also, did you say the year that was from?
Long time ago.
Like 1985.
Yeah.
Just so everyone's aware, it's numbers from
70s,
1985.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was back when we used to have a meeting every single Monday.
Yep. So we'll bring those 3 through the attorney's office and bring them back to the future meeting. Thank you.
Any other discussion on that? Anybody? Okay. Item 10, public comment. This is for items that were not on the agenda. There's a 3-minute time limit if you'd like to speak on anything. Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, Mike Jones, Donnelly in Garden City. Just like to remind everybody to save the date. August 11th is going to be a big day in Garden City. We'll have the Bacon Run, followed by Kids Day in the Park, both taking place at our city park. It's going to be a super event, both of those. And so save the date and try to participate as much as you can.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Hunt.
Kevin Hunt, Bridge, Garden City. These questions are actually for Jewel Jones. Maybe his representative can answer something for us. I was going back through the last 2 years, and my question would be, what has Mr. Jones done for Garden City in the last 2 years? Second one, as far as the signs out on the streets, we have enough problem with people putting signs out in the city and county right away, which is a hazard for viewing and everything else. In every city you go around here, whether it's Garden City, Livonia, Westland, Dearborn Heights, Dearborn, any of them, all the signs are up on private property. But Mr. Jones puts his wherever he feels like. And then the last one I have, any of you out there that are pro Second Amendment, go on YouTube and take a look at Mr. Jones. For some reason, because he was in the military and is also a reserve officer, he's trained. But the rest of us should have to go through all kinds of training, and he wants to rewrite our Second Amendment rights. When it comes to that one, no thank you. So if he wanted to come back and answer these, I'd love it, or if his representative wants to answer them, thank you.
Mayor and council, it's just comments section, not question and answer, so we can. Nobody has to respond or anything to it.
Yep. Any other comments?
It's not really a comment. I just want to wish the mayor and his mother well wishes, and I hear she's sick, getting back in the hospital. I know the lady, she's a hillbilly. What can I say?
Council didn't say that. Thank you. I'm sure the mayor will listen. I'm sure he's watching. All righty. Anybody else? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Renee Day, and I live on Balmoral, Garden City. As a lifelong resident of Garden City, I take pride in my home and work hard to maintain it. That maintenance includes the 40-plus-year-old maple tree in front of my home. That tree was full, healthy, and beautifully shaped. I have a tree service, fertilize it every fall, and every so often, when needed, I pay to have it trimmed to keep the branches away from the road and sidewalk. It was last trimmed less than 3 years ago. Garbage trucks, delivery vans, and other high-profile vehicles have never broken branches from the tree. They were never low enough to interfere with traffic. Earlier this month, I came home from work to find more than half of the tree gone. I was dumbfounded. The maple tree used to look like this, and now it looks like this. I just have two questions. Why did the trimmers need to remove so many internal branches from my tree, eliminating so much fullness, and go so high, well over 20 feet? Those limbs, and especially the ones facing my home, did not interfere with anything. In fact, my tree professional came out to look at the tree and noted that too much had been taken out of the canopy. His quote was, "The rule of thumb is at most only 1/3 should be removed." The shape of my tree is ruined, the aesthetics lost, and my home's curb appeal diminished. It also seems there is no rhyme or reason to the city's trimming criteria. Very frustrating for me is that several trees on my street were not trimmed nearly as severely as mine. Only a very few lower limbs were removed, and those trees' fullness remains intact. I wish I could say the same for mine. Question number 2, Why wasn't I notified about the impending trimming and given an opportunity to hire a tree service professional that I trust to do it? As you will recall, in the sidewalk repair program 2 years ago, letters were sent and homeowners were advised that by a certain date, the repairs needed to be made, but we could hire our own contractor to make them. Why wasn't that an option here? Needless to say, I am furious and frustrated. Nothing can be done now for my tree, but I would like answers. I want my street to look its best, and healthy, attractive trees add to this. As I mentioned earlier, I take pride in my home, and I only wish the city respected that. Thank you.
If you'll get your,
I do have one. I'll give to you.
if you'll give your name and address to Ms. Bettis, and
I will.
we'll have
Thank you.
someone from the city
Yes.
get with you.
We'll look into it, definitely.
Any other comments? Okay, city manager's report.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem, first I'd like to welcome Councilwoman Squires back.
Thank you.
I'm sure her ears were burning from a lot of great things that everybody was saying about Crazy Bob over the last couple of weeks, so he will be missed, and welcome back. So 4x4 Neighborhood Improvement Program, after hearing the citizen, which she had just questioned about her trees, I hate to talk about this, but tree trimming was a big part of Section 1. We'll find out what her address is and look into her concern, but looking at the monitor, section number 1, City Hall is wrapped with a circle around it there. It includes Maplewood to Ford and Middle Belt to Harrison. And looking at some of the things they did over that month of June, actually includes tree trimming, 210 trees trimmed. Now, that's why I hate to say that after what she had just said, so we're going to have to look into our tree trimming program. Would be a little different, clearly, as a sidewalk issue of a tree trimming crew coming down the road and trimming, not a large amount, but enough just to clean up the community. So again, we'll look into her situation. Street sweeping, one 10-yard dumpster was filled with the debris. Street signs replaced, 111 throughout that neighborhood area. Concrete repairs, 7-inch thick of 301 square yards. Asphalt repairs, 6 tons of cold patch. 50 code compliance tickets were written out. Abandoned vehicles tagged, about 15 in that area. And during night drives, there was no street lights that were out at all in that section. So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be in Section 2. And Section 2, coming up on the screen, consists of Marquette to Cherry Hill, Merriman to Hubbard, and Marquette, yep. Some of Section 1, different departments will be working throughout that area, offering maintenance as well as code compliance in the area. As we talked about before, the 4x4 program is really a code compliance maintenance program focused and specialized in just certain neighborhoods. So along with the Purple Bag Challenge mentioned earlier, the Golden Book we'll be talking about at another meeting. The 4x4 is just another way for us to start cleaning up our city instead of running around and putting out fires. Let's get some focused, concentrated effort, and then we don't have to go back to that area for some time if it's all done properly. So that's the 4x4. At this point, in the near future, got a couple issues coming your way. The service lead loan program we've been talking about as staff. There's a number of homes a year that lose their service lead, which is the sanitary line coming out from the house to the street. And it could be up to 20 or more homes. When that happens, you're in trouble. And a lot of people are stuck with how to pay the bill and how to get this whole thing done. We're looking as a community from the city side of putting a loan program together at a very low cost interest rate that people can get that help immediately. We can be involved to help the citizens along. In the past, we just have to say good luck and go to a bank and see what you can do. So that's something we're going to be bringing your way, as well as vehicle use policy and travel policy. We're looking to establish updated and new policies there for vehicle use and travel, and they should be before you very soon. And that's it I have for tonight.
Thank you, sir. City Clerk, Ms. Bettis.
Thank you. I just wanted to, mention again that the household hazardous waste collection opportunity is going to be Saturday, August 11th, and it's going to be, this is the closest one that we've had so far, at the Westland Mall. And you can enter off Nankin Boulevard from Central City Parkway, just behind J.C. Penney, or Penney if you're fancy. They're taking electronics, household paint, chemicals, thermometers, extinguishers, things like that, nail polish. You can get responsibly rid of your hazardous waste August 11th from 8 to 2 at Westside Mall. Also, the filing deadline for school school district board candidates is going to be tomorrow at 4 p.m. So if you're interested in being a candidate for the Garden City School District board, then you're going to need to make sure that is filed by tomorrow by 4 p.m. 4:05, it will be too late. And of course, everyone, please remember to get your ballot in or plan to go to the polls. Absentee ballots are available. You just have to fill out the appropriate application. If you have a question or want a sample ballot so that you can begin to prepare for the election on August 7th, please come to my office. Please go to our website. All of that information is available for there. What we don't have is information on candidates. You can use the multiple venues that have information for different candidates and different issues. All of the things that you will be interested in voting on will be on the sample ballot, and we look forward to how many percentage?
100.
Thank you. 100% vote, Garden City. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Earl.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. To piggy off the back of the 4x4 program, I attended the Cop on the Block that was at Catherine and Craig last week or the week before. It was very well attended. There must have been 20, 30 people there. Kids were running in and playing with the police cars, and I think it's a great program. It really gives the citizens a chance to get to know the police officers that are patrolling their areas. The kids had a blast. It was a beautiful day, so congratulations on that. Keep that up. Transitioning into that, coffee hour with a canine is August 9th at 9 a.m. at the Straight Farmhouse Museum. They bring the canine out, have coffee hour, get to ask questions about the canine and what they do. July 30th, 2018, from 4 to 9 p.m. is Cruisin' Garden City Park and Business Expo. It's the Garden City Business Alliance, helping to promote local businesses. They'll have vendors, food. It's a good time up there. Music in the Park, which I attended last year, and it's a great program, is August 16th. That's a Thursday. From 6 to 9, they have a band that comes out, and you can sit there with your family and listen to the music and have fun with all the citizens. It was very well attended last year. I look forward to going this year again. And I know Mayor Pro Tem is going to touch on the grant that we got for the fire department. I just want to say there's a location called Firehouse Subs. It's in Westland, and they were the reason we were able to get this grant. So when you visit this location, part of the money, if you round up or if you purchase what they call a pickle bucket for $2, that goes into the public safety fund. So far, they've donated $35 million worth of life-saving equipment to local fire departments and police departments. So supporting them supports us. And I'll let him touch on the grant itself. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Squires.
Just want to thank the community for the outpouring of love and support while my husband was sick and when he passed away. And to my fellow council people, everybody was so kind. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lynch.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to announce we received in our packet, probably last time, Wayne County Senior Citizen Volunteer of the Year. Garden City had 2 volunteers for Volunteer of the Year. And they're at the Maplewood Center, John Vega and David Mays. Both of them are really involved with the Meals on Wheels and the homebound residents, and they just do one outstanding job. And I just wanted to make sure that their name was announced on TV, because without that program, there's so many senior citizens that wouldn't have hot meals during the day. I mean, sure, you could make yourself a sandwich, but for some of those seniors, they can't get up and cook. And this program is really wonderful. So John Vega and David Mays, congratulations for both being the Volunteer of the Year for 2018. Want to send our prayers from council to the mayor and his mother. She was taken back to the hospital tonight, so we're thinking of her. On August 7th, on the election, Ms. Bettis, it's correct that we have to make sure we read both sides of the ballot this time, am I right?
Definitely, the ballot has two sides to it, and it's a primary ballot, so you make sure that you pick a team and stick with it, because if you split your vote doesn't count.
That's right. So usually we think that the primary is just front side of the ballot, quick in and out. Well, this one, you have to turn it over because there are many offices on the back, and on the back side is more local issues. Am I right on that?
Yes, almost all of, not all of them, but some of the local proposals are on the back.
So
and you'll be reminded at the polls, and there'll be signage and everything, and so we'll remind you.
So make sure you look on both sides of the ballot. And one last thing, I wanted to let the DDA know how beautiful those baskets are getting hanging along Ford Road and Middle Belt. There were a couple I was driving in and they caught my breath because they were just huge, larger than I've ever seen before in the DDA area. And we've had the hot weather, so they're beautiful. Thank you. And that's all I have.
Council, thank you. Councilwoman Curran.
Just prayers to the mayor's mother and his family while he's dealing with that. I'm really happy to have Ms. Squires back. I know somebody said keep a reminder out for August 11th. That is going to be a very busy day in this city between the pig race, the Kids Day in the Park, and also the Garden City Youth Athletic Association is going to hold the second annual varsity cheer car wash fundraiser. It's going to be held at Community Baptist Church of Garden City on Warren Road. So whether you're coming to or going from all those other events, you can stop through there if you need your car washed. I'm happy to see this purple bag challenge. It's going to give my daughter something to do.
Besides running to the car.
Besides running to the car for me, yes. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilwoman McCarge.
Nothing tonight.
Oh, really? Thank you. All righty. I just have a couple of things. One, Monica, to yourself and your team for getting that money for the fitness court. Outstanding job. And again, Garden City residents for helping out, Garden City employees. I know I saw the police department, the fire department doing jumping jacks. So great job getting everybody organized and getting that collected. I had a good time the last couple weeks with a couple events. One was, as Councilmember Earl said, the Firehouse Subs, which was in Ypsilanti, put on a event for the Detroit area first responders. Garden City was named the host city. So we had our truck out there, and we had a couple firefighters. We had Lieutenant Rhea, who was a speaker and did an outstanding job. We had Lieutenant Alt and firefighter Gambino out there representing the city, along with myself and Councilmember Earl. We received about right around $30,000 worth of equipment. We got a battery-operated Jaws of Life, battery-operated cutting tool, and the saw. And again, that's about $30,000-$40,000 worth of stuff. Total to all the fire departments that were represented there, which seemed like, I don't know, probably 15, 20 departments, they gave out about $265,000 worth of grants, which, again, from the pickle buckets to the, the spare change people leave at the counter to whatever the franchise owners donate. It's a really good cause, and it greatly helped Garden City. So that was a great event. And also, I got to go to the K-9 Academy. Rudy and Officer Shippey invited me out to watch all the dogs, and I know you brought up the Canine on a Block and Coffee with a Canine, and everybody likes how well-trained Rudy is, and he is. But the training they go through, and this class, which is in Taylor, has, I believe you said 89 departments that use them for training, and they go either on their own time or if they're on duty, but it's about 8 hours a week they spend there. Sometimes they'll go twice a week, and they put the dogs through the paces. They do explosive sniffing, they do tracking. It sounds funny, but they practice biting, because when they latch on to the bad guy, they also have to respond to the command to release him, when he finally gives up. And it was a tremendous learning experience for me. And if you've never seen it and you see them big German Shepherds walking around so nicely and politely, there's a lot of training. Officer Shippey is one of the master trainers there, which I believe there's only 2 along with the owner. And I guess the thing I got out of it was talking to all the other officers that I could on the side. They had nothing but the highest praise for Officer Shippey and his training. A lot of them say they'll follow him around even when he's not specifically working with them, just to pick up on his teachings. And I think that says a lot for Garden City. Again, along with the fire department, I think we have outstanding first responders. So the chief's off, so I'm sure Lieutenant Zimmer will pass that on to the police department, that we're proud of the work they're doing, and also the fire department. And again, Mayor Walker, hope your mom's all right. And other than that, no further business. This meeting is adjourned.